Good evening, everyone. It's Necro Thursday. Welcome to the Thunderdome with me and Jeff Kashid. How's it going, Jeff?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's we're recording this on a Friday, and
Mm-hmm.
got a big weekend coming ahead of me. Tonight, my girlfriend Tina and I are going to see Twin Tribes in Brooklyn. Tomorrow night, we're going to see Mayhem and Cannibal Corpse. Once again out in the boroughs of New York City. And Sunday, we're going to the first installment of Haunts, which is a Cadabra Records, festival of sorts. It's like a mini fest of the Nightlands Fest that I went to earlier in the year. And they're going to be doing readings with accompanying scores by, our buddies over at Cadabra Records. And this weekend should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I wish I could be going to that thing on Sunday.
They're going to be doing more of these, and it's a lot of fun, man. There's like a bunch of cool records coming out, and it's definitely a niche kind of thing if you're into like obscure like film scores on vinyl. Or I'm sorry, that's not even film scores. They do release occasional film score, but it's like spoken word, weird fiction, cosmic horror, gothic horror with an accompanying score. And it's really fucking cool, man. It's only available on vinyl, so definitely go check out their site if this sounds interesting to you. That's cadabrarecords.com.
I remember when I was a kid, my parents had a couple like scary story things on vinyl. Do you remember anything like that? Did you ever have anything like that when you were young?
Oh, totally. Absolutely, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because I was wondering, like, did I just imagine that, or was that real?
No, it's kind of like that actually, except it's really the packaging's killer. There's always great artwork associated with it. Paul Romano did a bunch of stuff. My buddy Joe our mutual friend Joe Kineberger, he's done some artwork for them too.
Nice.
Jeremy
I don't
Hush,
have
Jeremy Hush is a fairly well-known guy too.
Mike. I don't have anything going on this weekend. You're making me feel like a scrub here.
Sometimes it's nice to have a quiet weekend,
Yeah, but then when that's all you have, it's not that nice.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of shows coming through Austin, and I don't know if I'm going to get to go to any of them. The Melvins are on Tuesday. Depending on what time they go on stage, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. Oxbow, I'm definitely going to carve out time for that. They're coming through soon.
Yeah.
They're coming through. You're part of it.
Oh yes,
neck of the woods.
I already have tickets for it.
Nice. Yeah, and I just saw Sun is playing here in November, and it's been a good, I don't know, 10-something years since I've seen Sun.
I've never seen Sun.
That's right.
Ever.
That's right. You were supposed to go like a couple months ago.
Yeah, there was a scheduling issue that came around, and I ended up missing it. I had tickets and everything, man. And it's just one of those, one of those things,
Yeah, it's something, after seeing Earth 2 live, I'm good. I'm like, I never need to see another show again. So any other show I go to after that is just, gravy, I guess.
I need to see him just to be a completist, and I've been hanging out with Selden Hunt, our mutual friend, a lot, and he's tight with those guys, and he's always, hard selling me on checking it out live.
Yeah, he toured with them. And had some incredible stories about that tour that I'm sure he'd be happy to tell you with one or two of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I've heard a few of them. And apparently he's got it all on video, too.
Oh, boy. He videoed one of our 2005 European tour. He came with us. He was supposed to be our lighting guy.
Yeah.
He didn't really do shit, but it was great having him on tour.
I love guys like that. You got some guy on the payroll that's part of the crew, and he's just there to like hang out, really. And he gets his PD every day and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. We basically just had a paid hanger on. I mean, I'm not talking shit. Like he did attempt to do lights a couple times, and he did attempt to hang the banner a few times. So he kind of earned his money, but no, it was just great having him. He was such a good time, and he videotaped every day, just so much of that tour. I'd be really, really horrified to see that stuff. So I'm praying it never sees the light of day.
Have you been checking out Any movies or anything like that lately?
Not as much. As I said last time we spoke, I've been getting into physical media again. I've been unboxing all my DVDs and Blu-rays and all that. And I finally got it all displayed, and I've just kind of been going through some things like, oh, this is in the Criterion Collection now. I'm going to upgrade that, and I finally finished Inland Empire. I know I said I started watching it last week.
Right.
Great movie, man. Really, really great. And did you like that one? Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't. There's not a single thing that Lynch has done except for maybe Dune that I don't like.
Even Dune's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And I watched Mulholland Drive.
Oh, that's like one of my favorites, man.
That is my favorite. I think that's his best movie. I think that's his most complete movie too. Any question you have in your head, I think can be explained just from watching it. It's not as it is abstract, but I think it's all there for you to put the pieces together. Whereas Inland Empire, I'm still like, I think I have a grasp on this.
I should give that another watch too. Actually, I have the Blu-ray of that.
Yeah, I got the Criterion Blue. David Lynch has a lot of stuff in the Criterion Collection, so I got to upgrade pretty much everything I have by him.
I think Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, I kind of fluctuate between those two as being my favorite.
I love Lost Highway. I had great memories going to see that in the theater with my old bandmates, Chris Marishak and Aaron Turner, right when I moved to Boston. It was a real fun experience. I do like that movie, but I don't love it as much as Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive is perfect. Lost Highway it's got a few things in it. I remember being like, it's got Rammstein blaring on the soundtrack.
That Lou Reed cover of This Magic Moment is awesome too.
Fuck, I don't even remember that. I gotta watch that again. So I've just kind of been doing that. I picked up Onibaba on Blu-ray, on Criterion Blu-ray. I picked up La Lorna on Criterion Blu-ray. I don't know if any of you've seen, or you might have seen La Lorna. Not the shitty Blumhouse horror movie. We're talking about the Spanish production, I believe. It's a really cool movie. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, Onibaba has come up as a recommendation on the Necrophone, so
yes,
we should definitely look into doing that. There's a bunch of good stuff that we're trying to get to that everyone's been, recommending to us.
Yeah, and we'll get to it. Last thing, I got the Studio Canal Wicker Man box set.
Dude, I saw the pictures, and that's incredible looking.
Yeah, I mean, if you get one version of that film, the physical media, that's the one. I mean, it's got all 3 cuts. It's got the huge booklet. It's got a couple posters. It's got postcards. The script is on one of the discs, which I'm curious to read because my friend, our mutual friend, Peter Ferris, just sent me a text the other day saying he read the script for The Wicker Man. I guess you can buy it in book form now. Mm-hmm. And he's like, it's really interesting, man. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there that didn't, like they probably ran out of money and couldn't film. And so he's like, it's definitely, you're a super fan of the movie. You've got to read the script. So that's on the agenda.
I should pick that up too, man, while they last. Those things are probably selling like hotcakes, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I got lucky and snagged the last copy. That's pretty much it. One thing I just I started listening to John Bernthal's podcast.
Dude,
I thought you get a kick out of that.
I should check it out too.
Dude, it sounds like 2 people blasted on coke having a conversation. That's what it reminds me of. Like, really, bro, listen, bro, dude, bro, I love you. It's very, but once you get past all that, it's a really interesting podcast. He's smarter than he appears. I'll say that.
No, I like John Bernthal.
Me too.
But he's one of those actors that like to fight, though. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, not like in some tough guys kind of way, but just like, I don't know. Like, he talks a lot about boxing and stuff, and I'd like to, go out on the mat and see what's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that'd be interesting. He had I listened to 2 episodes. He had David Ayer on, the filmmaker David Ayer, who I'm a big fan of. I think he's criminally underrated.
Yeah, totally. I should check it out. I mean, I like John Bernthal. I think he plays like a really good like scumbag kind of character. Yeah,
he does. He excels at playing a piece of shit. that show we were watching on HBO where he plays the Baltimore cop.
Oh, that's the best, man. Dude, that's the best.
He's so good in that role. He would swear that dude was a Baltimore townie, man. He nailed it.
The ambulance. Where he says ambulance. He's like,
yeah, well,
ambulance.
Yeah, what's wrong? You don't like my crabs? My crabs? Water, yeah. that mid-Atlantic accent. Yeah.
Water.
Water. Give me some water ice, kid. But yeah, it's interesting interview. He just doesn't do so. I mean, I only listened to 2 episodes, and one was David Ayer, and the other was Shia LaBeouf, who I've never been a fan of. But that's an interesting listen. But he interviews like ex-cons and gangbangers and shit, and military people, cops. Really interesting. I'm looking forward to digging into it.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Definitely.
Yeah. What about you, man? What have you been checking out?
A couple things. The House October Built 2. I didn't realize there was a sequel to that, so I watched that. Yeah, it was all right. It was like you should watch 1 and 2.
I've never heard of the first one. When did that come out?
Well, my girlfriend knew all about these movies. It's funny because I was at her place and I had it on. She was like, doing something like work related, and she's like, "Oh, what are you watching?" And I was like, "The House That October Built 2." And she's like, "Oh, I saw the first one. I didn't know there was a sequel." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, it's not good, but it's not bad. It's like definitely, it's like the first one's like a found footage kind of thing.
Okay.
The second one, similar to Blair Witch, it's not all found footage. You know what I mean? There's more like connective tissue and things like that.
Ah, okay.
I can't full wholeheartedly back it, but if you have Tubi and you're bored, check it out. Check both of them out.
Okay. All right. That sounds interesting. You learn something new every day. Never heard of the House That October Built.
Yeah. And then I checked out Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, which is on Shudder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just saw that on the homepage there.
Yeah. It's actually Rennie and I were texting about this with Mike, and I thought it was pretty good, man. It's like kind of like an urban riff on obviously Frankenstein,
Okay.
Yeah, and there's actually she has a notebook that the title is the Modern Prometheus, which is the subtitle for a version of Frankenstein. So,
right,
definitely worth checking out. Very, very, in a weird way. I know we were talking about this on the thread with Mike and Rennie that it has this kind of like EC Comics like sort of vibe to it.
I like that stuff.
It was good, really well done. The acting was good, and I back it. I'd be interested in talking about it on the show, actually.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check it out. You know what, Mike? That brings to mind. I did watch another thing on Shudder.
What's that?
Stage Fright, the Italian horror film from 1987 by Michael Solazzo. I can't pronounce his last name. Hey, yeah, he directed Cemetery Man.
Oh, Michele Suavi.
Yes, yeah, that sounds right. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because when you said the Angry Black Girl thing, I was like, oh yeah, I saw that on Shudder. What was I doing on Shudder? And like, oh yeah, I watched Stage Fright. Been meaning to watch that for like 20 years. I've had it in my DVD collection forever. And finally, just saw it on Shudder. It was like, oh, that's easier than going upstairs and popping it in.
Yeah, I'm down with Suavi's material. That's
not a lot of it out there.
No, but it's all pretty good, man. I mean, like Cemetery Man, a.k.a. Della Morte Della More, is like one of my favorite horror films of all time. And,
yeah, it's great.
The church, though uneven, is actually interesting to watch and pretty good.
Oh yeah, he worked under Terry Gilliam. I'm not sure what he was. It's like assistant director or something, but his time with Gilliam definitely shows in Cemetery Man and the Church. Not so much in Stage Fright, but
yeah,
there is some Gilliam-esque imagery in those movies, which I appreciate as a big fan of Terry Gilliam. And
the guilty pleasure, the annual guilty pleasure of American Horror Story, that rolls on. That's been.
How's it going?
It is what it is. It's like
not good, huh?
It's like our Thursday night thing that Tina and I do at the house. It's like
that's cool.
We like watch it, and we got a bite to eat last night. We put it on, hung out, watched it. It was pretty good. It's I have to say that what's her name there? Kim Kardashian looks like an android or something, you know? Like she looks like one of those like real
she keeps
dolls.
coming up in the ads. I guess it's a big selling point. She's on the show now.
Do you know like the real doll? Like
yes.
I mean, I've only read about these things. I've never, I've never seen
yeah.
one really in person, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I've only read about these. But she looks like a real doll. Like if you animated a real doll, that's what Kim Kardashian looks like.
Yeah, she's probably like, what, 42, 43 now, not a wrinkle on her face. And, her skin tone, she's like the female Michael Jackson. Her skin tone has changed a bunch. She's changed the shape of her body. I mean, she's almost like the subject of a Cronenberg film with all this body modification and shit.
But I do think this season actually is kind of interesting. It's like it's kind of like a riff. It has a Cronenbergian vibe to it in some ways, and also like this kind of riff on Rosemary's Baby. It's it's following that trajectory of the story. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But there is like a body horror kind of thing going on too, which I found interesting.
I got, like I said it a million times. I only watched 2 seasons of this show, and one was enjoyable trash, and the other one was just absolutely terrible. It just seems like the subject, whatever the subject they're doing, it always flies off the rails. So, and sometimes in an interesting way, and sometimes it's just like, oh no, I'm out. So I've been hesitant to check out another season. If I do, what would be the one to do?
I watch all of them. I can't defend any opinion I have with this. It's like if anyone, it's like when someone catches you like jerking off or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
I don't know what you mean. No.
I'm guilty. That's me. Yes, but I can't defend it. Oh yeah, I was just no.
Yeah, researcher.
It's like, so yeah, it has that kind. That's my experience with it, but. The ones that are better is the first season I thought was really good. Asylum I thought was good.
I don't know.
That one, and I thought the New York City one from last year was pretty good.
Oh, the cruising one, right?
Yeah, just because it took place in New York and it has like this kind of cruising, like late 70s, early 80s, like a giallo kind of thing going on,
I think conceptually it's really cool to kind of take like a horror genre or trope or movie and kind of do a riff on it. I like that.
Yeah. It's uneven at best. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes you're like, oh wow, I'm into this, and sometimes it really does fall flat.
Yeah, I can't believe that was the guy that did the Dahmer show, which is just the polar opposite of the polar opposite of American Horror Story.
Yeah, deadly serious, really depressing and heavy. Yeah, totally.
Dark
as hell.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So before we get too deep in the episode, I just want to shout out the other members of the podcasting Illuminati, the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. Of course, kicking the week off, we have Brandon Legions, Horror Wolf 666. Then we move on to the finest metal podcast on the internet, Into the Necrosphere with Jackie Smith. Wednesdays, Everything Went Black, which is I've been at it for quite a while with that show. It's kind of like a variety show, like the Carol Burnett show in some ways, of like you never know what you're going to get,
Right.
Of course, Thursdays, Necro Thursday. We have Carl Hikara bringing us Soul Knox on Sunday, and Lurking in the Shadows, Iblis Manifestations, brought to you by Cheyenne of Trivax, who's too much of a free spirit to stick to a regular schedule.
Good for him, man.
Yeah. We got a couple calls. Of course, we have the Necrophone, which I invite everyone to call and leave messages, make recommendations, anything, pretty much anything you want. It's an open forum. And first up, returning, we have Mike from PA. I'm glad to hear from Mike, man. He's back,
Hey, Necro Hood. It's Mike from Telford. I just listened to the new episode today, The Woman in Black. That was a great episode, dude. That's a great movie. I'll hip you guys to a couple of great mail order places. Orbit DVD out of Asheville, North Carolina, and Diabolic DVD, which is, I think, in New Jersey. It's not far from me. Those two places are excellent. I'm willing to bet that one of them two has that movie. It might be Region B, though, and Diabolic can point you towards a good Region B player. They don't cost that much anymore. I bought one last year so I could stop missing out on some of this shit. So I'm heading to the Anti-Scene 40th anniversary show this weekend. I'm good. Everything's good, man. I never miss you guys on Thursdays. I look so forward to that. So, I don't want to be presumptuous, but you've been talking about doing an episode on Alucarda, and this last time I ordered from Mondo Macabro, I bought an extra copy of that DVD. I believe Mike Scandato said he couldn't find his. So if you guys need a hard copy to do that with, I'm going to try and hit that Oxbow show in Philly, or just, we'll meet up somewhere. I can pass that to you, though. That's why I bought it, so you guys can do that. Listen, I'm not a fucking show producer or nothing, so you do what you do, because you're doing an excellent job. All right, fellas, I'll be talking to you soon. I haven't watched shit in a bit, so I don't have nothing to fucking recommend, but I look forward to Necro Thursday every fucking week, guys, so hope you have a good weekend, and I'll be talking to you later.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Mike. I'm familiar with Diabolic DVD. I've ordered from them a bunch of times. That's cool that Anti-Scene's playing. I think Malcolm from Trash American Style is actually playing bass for Anti-Scene.
Really?
Yeah. One of the times I saw Malcolm, he was talking about that he was actually in Anti-Scene.
Wow, I have not seen Malcolm in over 20 years, closer to 30.
It seems like I saw him yesterday, but it's been about 3 years, at least 3 years since I've seen him, because I had him on Everything Went Black with Randy a few years ago.
That's right. You did that in Randy's basement.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep,
okay.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
Yeah. Alucarda, thanks for reminding us. That's definitely something I want to do. And, definitely, man. I will not be going to the Philly Oxbow show. I'll be checking that out in New York, but that's one of the best live bands out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some touring with Oxbow. I've seen them play a lot, and like I mentioned earlier, they're coming to Austin in November. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, they're sick, and I've had many conversations with Eugene Robinson, the front man of that band, over on Everything Went Black. So if anyone's interested, you can check that out. I think, a couple months ago I had him on. We talked about the new record and his book and all this, kind of stuff.
Fascinating guy. I really enjoyed spending time with him on tour and hearing his stories. I remember being in a bar in Greece at some ungodly hour, just him telling me this insane story. And man, he's such a very, just a smart, interesting guy.
Also check out his shows, his podcast, Show Stomper, and sign up to his Substack. Look What You Made Me Do.
Definitely.
Up next, we got returning caller Stuart from the Bay Area. And how's it going, man?
Hey, Necromaniacs. This is Stuart out here in the Bay Area. I just wanted to call in and tell you how much I've enjoyed the recent episodes. Really liked Let's Scare Jessica to Death episode. That's one of my favorite movies. I really enjoyed the Influencer episode. That wasn't a movie that was on my radar until you guys covered it, and I actually ended up liking it. Doesn't seem like something I would usually watch, but I thought it was good. I've also been really enjoying the Darkness Weave episodes. I've been reading the short stories In a Lonely Place collection by Carl Edward Wagner, and I've enjoyed listening to the episodes that Mike and Carl do. It's been pretty cool. I have one recommendation. It's a movie from Belgium. It came out in 2008, I think. It's called Left Bank. It's kind of hard to find, but I was able to watch it during the pandemic. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of about a woman who moves in with her boyfriend into his apartment, and all sorts of weirdness ensues. I think you guys would probably dig it. Anyways, I was also wondering, have you ever covered the movie Phantasm at some point? I'm just wondering about that. Anyways, have a good one. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks about Jessica. That's that was I love that movie, and it's definitely
Me too.
part of that like era of like American Nightmare or like vibes, and yeah, I also was pleasantly surprised about Influencer too. Weren't you, Jeff?
Oh God, yeah. Like not expecting anything from that. Like I said on the episode, we were looking for something to watch and threw that on, and ended up being really good.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. And hey, thanks
Very.
for listening to the Darkness Weaves episodes on Everything Went Black and Soul Knox. It's cool that there's like a cross section of people who are checking out all the other shows associated with us. And yeah, dude, definitely support the Carl Edward Wagner catalog. He's become a relatively obscure author these days, but he's got such great material out there. He's got this dark fantasy character Kane, which someone should make a series out of the Kane stories, man. It's like a Conan if he was a sorcerer, an immortal sorcerer,
Yeah, there's so much good stuff out there to make, and content with, and the same things just keep getting recycled. So yeah. Do something cool, people.
And regarding the recommendation of Left Bank, I have to check. I might have seen that movie. It sounds familiar based on your description, and the title rings a bell. But then again, it might be something that's or some other thing that I'm confusing it with. And
no,
yes,
it's definitely Left Bank.
yeah.
I've mentioned it on this podcast a lot.
Did I agree
love that movie.
did I say that I saw it? Or
I don't think you've seen it, but I've mentioned it many, many times, and I recommend it all the time. No one ever likes it as much as I do.
All right. Well, fuck. Let's do it, man. I haven't seen it. Okay.
It's great.
And Phantasm, though we haven't dedicated an episode to it. Phantasm has come up on one of these like favorites lists that me and Mike have done in the past. But I think it's high time that we do a focused episode on it.
Doing how many? There's 5 of those movies?
Yeah. And obviously the first one's classic, then they kind of fall off as time goes on.
I gotta say, I think the second one's my favorite.
I like the second one.
Yeah, I like the second one a lot. The ones after that, I haven't seen the 5th one. I've seen 3 and 4, but I can't tell you one thing about them. It's completely out of my memory.
So if you want to call us, you can reach us at 908-913-0782. No one's going to answer, so you have to leave a message, okay? And that number, once again, is 908-913-0782. And keep those messages coming,
If someone does answer, though, you probably got the wrong number. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. All right, man. So today's this week's episode, it's a movie that I'm surprised we've never done, and of course, I'm talking about The Mist from November 21st, 2007. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike. We were talking the other day, and I was like, "We haven't done The Mist, have we?" And you're like, "No." Well, I mean, I think it's kind of perfect for this time of year.
Yeah.
It's about to be out. Actually, when this comes out, it will be October.
Yep.
And this kind of fits, I think, the criteria of what I like to watch during October, is the spooky season.
Yeah, this is I'm putting a list together, which with my girlfriend, we have to wrap it up this weekend because we're going to start doing our 31 days of Halloween thing.
Yeah, we're going to try to as well here.
Yeah. Related to that, we're going to see a screening of Halloween on a big screen.
Oh, nice.
On Halloween.
Fun, yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, that's a staple of every October is the Halloween in some form. There's quite a few movies to choose from, some documentaries. It seems to always make its way into my October viewings in some form or another.
So this movie came out, as I mentioned, on November 21st, 2007. It's 126 minutes long and directed with screenplay by the great Frank Darabont, who you guys all know from Walking Dead, early Walking Dead fame.
Mm.
And this is based on the short story titled The Mist by Stephen King, which you can find this short story in his Skeleton Crew collection.
Yes, yeah, and in Dark Forces, the horror anthology from or collection of short stories from the 80s. I think that's where I might have read it.
Yeah, I have the Skeleton Crew version of it.
Yeah, I have it too.
Yeah, the two pieces are different actually. You know, like the endings, and there's some slight variations in the narrative, which we'll talk about later.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The cast, we have Thomas Jane as David Drayton, a painter.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because like Stephen King always like inserts like other authors, like his protagonists are sometimes authors. You know, but this time he's going with a painter.
Drew Struzan, I read from that. Like, you know what I mean? Did you get that vibe?
What's that?
He's supposed to be like Drew Struzan, the famous poster artist.
Yeah.
Who did Star Wars and all that shit.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We have his direct antagonist in this, besides monsters, is Marcia Gay Harden as Mrs. Carmody, and she's a religious fanatic. If she were existing in the modern society, she would probably most likely have voted for Donald Trump. And be supporting. She would be living in Florida, supporting extreme right-wing viewpoints, and would be in love with what's his name, Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis, yeah.
Bob DeSantis, or whatever his name is down there.
Our friend's old roommate.
Yeah, that's right. Our mutual friend was roommates with him at Yale.
Yeah. How fucking crazy is that?
That's we're not lying. That's actually true. So
yeah, it is very true.
Yeah. We have Laurie Holden as Amanda Dunphy, and she's notable because she also was in Walking Dead.
Yeah, a lot of Walking Dead people in this.
Yeah, and Andre Brauger as Brent Norton, and he's an attorney. I guess he's like a summer person who comes to that town, and there's initially some conflict between Drayton and him.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the basic. There's actually a fairly large cast for this film, but that's the main players, I think.
Huge cast, small setting.
Yeah, very claustrophobic. Yeah.
Yeah. So first, I wanted to get this out of the way. Mike, did you see this in the theater?
I did not see this in the theater. I rented it on DVD.
All right. I saw this in the theater, and that was the last time I saw this movie in color. If you own this on Blu-ray or DVD, it comes with 2 discs. The second disc is the director's cut, which is the exact same movie, only in black and white. This movie plays so much better in black and white, I think. I agree. Have you seen the black and white?
Oh, yeah. I have the same version that you have. And it's it's great in black and white. And I mean, technical comment. It's like the special effects in color definitely look a little ropey. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Like in black and white, they look amazing though.
I think it just fits overall with part of what Frank Darabont was going for. This is obviously supposed to be a throwback monster movie, a little nod to the B movies of the 50s I got.
Yeah.
Although the tone is much more serious than that, which is what I found really interesting about this movie. But yeah, black and white is the way to go with this one for sure. It just works so much better. It's gotten to the point where I can't stand to watch this in color. I was watching the extras on the Blu-ray, and they were showing clips from the film in color, and it just doesn't work for me as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a throwback to those giant bug movies, from the 50s, like Them and that kind of stuff. But
much more horrific.
But those, I've always thought, maybe not always, but as I started, getting more into like involved literature, like horror literature, there's a strong Lovecraftian element to some of those giant bug movies,
Oh, of course.
And this
Yeah.
this takes the
Yeah.
Lovecraftian element and amplifies it, definitely.
Yeah, and not only that, but I'm sure you just said you read the story. The story itself is Lovecraftian because it's, you're reading it from the narrator's perspective. This has all already happened. He's sitting in a gas station writing all of this down.
Yeah.
That feels very like that's like a Lovecraft setup right there. I have a tale to tell you, and now this guy's never going to be the same.
Yeah. No, that the story itself. I mean, it's funny. Like, it's not an obvious influence with Stephen King, Lovecraft, but when you kind of like squint your eyes, you can see that there's a strong Lovecraftian element to so much of his fiction.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's more overt in some things that he's written. Obviously, the story Crouch End is
Yeah.
just a giant nod to Lovecraft. And I think, yeah, in some ways, you have tentacle creatures from. Well, it's not in the story. It's a bit more ambiguous where they come from.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's tentacles, which is like a strong Lovecraft thing. Also, the novel Revival, which have you read that one by Stephen King?
I have it, but I haven't read it yet. My girlfriend listened to it on the book on tape thing or whatever. She said it was great, the best thing he'd written in years.
It's one of my favorite novels that he's done, and it's a real heavy like ending. You know what I mean?
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I pieced out on Stephen King's novels at Duma Key. I hated it so much I couldn't finish it. His short stories, I think, is where he's always excelled. These quick bursts of horror for like 20, 30 pages, and you don't really have to explain anything. But I do want to read Revival. I keep hearing the words downer ending and Lovecraftian. Maybe he was influenced by this movie of his own adaptation.
I thought also there's like just a vibe of like a dude who's approaching the end of his life, and pondering like what the next what's going to happen. You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you kind of forget Stephen King's well into his 70s at this point, I believe.
Yeah. When I went to BU, he spoke on campus.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, it was great. Of course, I went. And he was just talking about writing, and I forgot what films were being put out at that point, but it was just awesome to see him like in person.
I would love that. I've always heard from people. I have some friends in the literary world that they all say Stephen King is a stand-up dude.
He seems like that kind of guy.
Yeah, he's very outspoken on Twitter, and a lot of people hate him for that. But whatever. I don't care about that shit.
I know that he loves AC/DC and the Ramones, so
yes,
that's awesome.
Yes, he does. Yeah, apparently he was in a band back in the day, and people would like say they played like at obnoxious volumes. I remember hearing that.
Fucking love that, man.
Yeah, me too. Back when he was just probably coked out of his mind. Good for him. This is one of his better stories too. I really like this. I haven't read it since I read it actually a couple nights before the film came out because I wanted it fresh in my head. And there's some differences. Obviously, the ending, a few added characters, but I think it mostly maintained the what Stephen King had written pretty well.
Yeah, and I kind of respect the fact that Darabont changed the ending. You know what I mean? It's because I don't know. It's like sometimes when I watch an adaptation of a novel, especially or a book or a short story or whatever, especially something that I'm familiar with, it's cool when they go side to side with it and take a different path. And I appreciate that about this.
I do too. And I've always said an adaptation is just that. If you want the book on the page, well, I mean, sure, that's cool. But once you want someone else's ideas to meld with the creator's ideas, that to me is a lot more interesting than just, throwing like Watchmen. It was like page for page on the screen and it didn't work. So, while we're talking about adaptations, I kind of wanted to talk about the tone of this movie. I think when you think of a creature feature or a monster movie, you think about maybe more of a good time or something people will call it a fun horror movie. Even Frank Darabont, making the sort of a throwback 50s style B movie. You expect this to be more fun, but this is not a fun time at the movies. This is a very dark dour film. Do you
Yeah,
agree?
yeah, definitely. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and then of course the division between the age old sort of staple in these kind of post-apocalyptic films where it's like the actual threat is the people, not so much the big baddies at the door.
Right. It kind of has the same beats as like a zombie film,
Yes.
where instead of zombies, it's monsters. But society is breaking down, uh, and this little ecosystem of a grocery store, and things start to fall apart relatively quickly. I think it was the same way on the page, but I guess we can set it up a little bit. We follow Tom Jane. He's sort of the everyman. He's the art. Is there a better everyman than Tom Jane?
Yeah, and according to you, who've you interacted with him a bunch of times, he's not very much an everyman. He's kind of like an oddball sort of dude.
He's a very strange dude. Yeah, he's a weird guy. Not a mean guy, but just odd.
Eccentric.
But he's very yes. Okay, perfect way to put it. But on screen, I think he is a great just everyman. Like if he needs that guy, Tom Jane is the guy to play it. And he's an art, like we said, he's a Drew Struzan style artist, or a nod to that guy at least. A storm has come through town, a thunderstorm, kind of wreaked havoc, and everyone's going to the grocery store to get supplies. And he's there with his neighbor, played by Andre Braugher, and they don't like each other. This movie really establishes everything very quickly. It moves really quick. I think it's about less than 15 minutes before the mist has rolled up and everyone's trapped in the grocery store.
Yeah, it's like even though the film is kind of on the long side, it seems to progress quickly. And one of the things that's kind of like a recurring theme in some of Stephen King's work, and which carries over into the film, is that kind of dichotomy of like the city people versus like the down home, folk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. His neighbor, like you said, is like a summer guy. Even though this seemed to take place in the fall, his neighbor, he's up for whatever reason in a summer home, and you meet some of these people at the store. You have a mix of eccentric locals and things like that, but they all seem to have different levels of contempt for like David, Tom Jane, he's one of them, but he's, a fancy guy with connections to Hollywood and New York, and they don't like that.
Yeah, I love that. You know what I mean? I think that's really cool how they establish that sort of stuff. And of course, he's like the kind of Brent Norton is sort of like that entitled guy. There's like a conflict between something kind of trivial, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there was like a property dispute between the two of them, and it's kind of cool. He's helping out his neighbor, so tensions are easing a little bit there as they get to the grocery store. But then those old tensions sort of rear their ugly heads in a very tense situation. People start to break down and panic, and it comes out in different ways, and in disbelief and in anger.
One of the more terrifying aspects of this is how, everything is, and this is kind of the thing I really liked about the film and films like this, where there's this like period where things are normal and everyone's going about their day. Drayton gets sent out to the supermarket to pick up like something, very mundane, like milk and eggs or something like that. But there's this looming specter, like, in the horizon that's slowly approaching, and no one's really giving it a whole lot of thought. They're just assuming that it's like, okay, whatever, there's some like a storm or something coming,
right,
without the knowledge that this like really intense apocalyptic thing is about to drop on them. So
I like that too.
Yeah, so Drayton, there's like this underlying doom, but everyone else is kind of oblivious to it. They just, they're doing their thing, working, going to the store, and all that sort of stuff. So
right.
Drayton is separated from his family when all the shit hits the fan.
From his wife, yeah, he brings his son with him.
Yeah.
Um, which again, like, God, when they make the kids front and center in these movies, it's 9 out of 10 times it's a bad choice. In this, I think they made the smart decision. It constantly reminds you that he's with his son, but it doesn't really put the kid in the forefront of the action, which I thought was a very smart move. Hey, remind the audience that his son is still there, but like, don't give him a ton of dialogue or anything like that, because a lot of times, like, kids just can't act. I'll say it.
Yeah, and it's also like I think it's cheap when they use kids to like kind of draw, like claw at your heartstrings or create drama. It's like a cheap way of doing that.
Right. It's kind of funny. I've seen this pointed out that David keeps pawning his kid off to everyone else so he can go and like save the day. But I get it. You have to fight a pterodactyl from another dimension. You don't want to be hanging out with your kid the whole time. One quick, you mentioned like the something apocalyptic is happening, but people don't know. I loved when they were driving to the grocery store. You see like the army coming the opposite way.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I love stuff like that too, man. And this guy, one of the actors from Walking Dead, comes running into the grocery store. His nose is bleeding. He's out of breath and starts screaming about the mist. Shut the doors. And like they're not sure what to think. But they do it anyway. They shut the doors. And I would imagine there was a good in the movie, it's just a few minutes, but as of watching it, but like if you're there, it seems like some time has passed. They've been stuck there and nothing's happened, and that's when we get our first glimpse of what's out there. David goes to fix the generator and hears something knocking, and the local yokels are making fun of him for being, basically being a pussy. And
that all changes quickly, though.
Yeah, exactly. We get our first glimpse of a tentacle creature. This is, again, to my point, the deaths in this movie are not light or fun. They're very grim and disturbing. Our first victim, Norm, he's just a kid who works at the grocery store who wants to prove that he's, brave and wants to impress like the older local guys. And he's like, and he gets devoured by this tentacle thing rather brutally. It's tough to watch.
It looks like it hurts. That's like the takeaway from that. It looks like really painful.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not just like they're tentacles that sort of open up and show like they have mouths, and there's these other tentacles within tentacles and stuff. It's a very cool design. I really liked the look of these things, and of course it's a mix of practical and CGI. It looks pretty dodgy in the color version. It looks okay in the black and white version.
Yeah, that's why it's recommended to watch the black and white version. And once again, just even the creature design, this is total Lovecraft. It's like weird
God, yeah.
cosmic alien type shit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the bug stuff, not so much. It feels a bit more Ray Harryhausen, but there's like a crab creature that seems to be like a cross between a crab and maybe a spider. There's some sort of gigantic, undescribable beast, which is very very Lovecraftian. But yeah, the tentacles for sure. And right away things start to get divided with the people. You have one camp, which is David, and he's sort of building his own sort of, I guess, resistance to what else is going on in the store. Marcia Gay Harding's character, Mrs. Carmody, is a doomsday, trumper. And she starts to take a hold of the group rather quickly. And I just wanted to talk about these two. There's a character we didn't mention when we were talking about the stars of this. There's a guy named Ollie who works at the grocery store, played by Toby Jones.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite characters in the movie. I love Toby Jones. He if you're a horror fan, if you're listening to this podcast, you are, obviously. Toby Jones has popped up in a lot of horror movies. He's a really great actor, very underrated. And he brings a lot to the character of Ollie, the grocery store clerk,
Yeah, it's because he's kind of like an unassuming guy. He's just kind of average. You know what I mean? And you don't have expectations of him to be like heroic or exceptional in any way. But in when push comes to shove, he actually is.
Yeah, exactly. You have a guy who's probably what in his late 40s or early 50s, and he's a grocery store clerk. Kind of maybe an unremarkable life, but in this situation, he comes to life. You know, he was a marksman. He knows what to do. He's not panicked. He gets, you know, he knows how to organize. He's helping. I found it like him to be one of the more interesting characters, and Toby Jones to be a very interesting choice, bringing this role to life.
Yeah, he was definitely one of those actors from that era that appeared in a lot of films and, you know, playing similar roles.
Yeah, he's great in this. He brings a lot to, you know, not a throwaway character, but a character that could have been a little, I don't know, maybe a different actor wouldn't have liked this character as much, wouldn't have been so curious. Like, what was this guy like before he was a, you know, a clerk in a grocery store? I don't know. There's something really interesting about it there, like, you know, him being a marksman and things like that, like, or him being able to keep his calm in this absolute panic. You know, I wanted to know more about that. And of course, we have Marcia Gay Harden as Mrs. Carmody. I wanted to talk about this character specifically because I think I don't remember it so well on the page. On the screen, it came off as a little bit much, a little bit over the top.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely hyperbolic, you know, and or maybe that's not the right word for it, but definitely extreme. You know, she's like the religious fanatic. Conservative, religious, you know, fanaticism, this kind of like Old Testament end days trip, you know?
Yeah, it's just a little bit on the nose, and I thought she went from 0 to 10 a little too quickly. Like, as soon as the mist comes in, she's like, it's the end of days.
We have to sacrifice the sinners, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like right away. I mean, there was a nice line from Toby Jones, like, you locals will know Miss Carmody is known to be a little off balance or whatever, or unstable. So, okay, cool. It's explained. But I don't know. Like, it's the only real part of the movie that made me just a little like, you know, this is a little bit much. And she's all over this movie. Apparently, there was some scenes of hers that got cut because Frank Darabont
where she's naked.
Said, no, yeah. Well, Frank Darabont said a little of Mrs. Carmody goes a long way.
Yeah,
and I completely agree. It's her character is a little bit much. Marcia Gay Harden is a great actress. She does a good job with this, but man, it's just an over the top character and a little bit of an over the top performance.
I'm going to draw a comparison to Midnight Mass, the character Bev, you know, the religious, you know, zealot. In that case, there was more, and I draw these comparisons because Mike Flanagan is kind of like an acolyte of Stephen King. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And, you know, Midnight Mass had a lot of King-esque qualities to it, and that storyline definitely had that feel. And the character of Beverly, or Bev, or whatever her name is kind of like the equivalent of Mrs. Carmody from this, except that there was like more of an arc for her character. You know what I mean? And that's the only criticism I have about the Carmody, you know, character in this. The movie's not short; like it's almost, you know, it's over 2 hours long. And
yeah, true, and yeah,
they could have taken more time to develop some of the characters. I think because they like you mentioned, they rushed. They get boom, you're in the middle of it. You know,
right. Yeah, that's one of the few, like, I guess, flaws I could say about this. She's a little much, and you know, it's just paint by numbers. You are supposed to hate this person, and you hate them right away. And you, like you said, a little bit more development, a little bit more nuance with that would have been beneficial to that character.
You know, but also typical to a lot of these kind of like the sort of beats of this type of film. You have a place of relative safety, but then it all goes to hell, and you know, you have to leave and sort of make do with your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. And it makes. I mean, I think they're in that grocery store for 2 nights, and things have gone to absolute hell in those 2 nights.
Yeah.
Outside and inside. And David brings up a good point. Other than Mrs. Carmody's growing cold, like one of these things is going to like get in here and kill all of us. And so, they hatch a plan to leave. And again, most of the movie has been very like handheld. I don't think there was much of a score for the entire movie until they leave the grocery store. So you have this very like one style of movie. Like I know he used the crew from the TV show The Shield to shoot this,
Right.
and because TV moves quick. And then as soon as they leave the grocery store, it gets a little bit more cinematic, like that, like just more composure in the shots. Things like you have this like score from Dead Can Dance playing.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked. I liked that. You just spent the whole hour and 45 minutes in one place, and then they leave, and it just sort of shifts in style. I thought that was a great choice.
And this is when you start seeing the true extent of this, of what's going on. Now you have like the former landscape of this small town being transformed into a Lovecraftian nightland. It's like these gigantic behemoths are roaming the landscape, and there's mist and death and destruction and everything, around them.
Yeah, everything's destroyed. All the highway signs are like now on the ground, and yeah, it's seemingly the whole world is engulfed in fog or mist, and everyone they know is dead. Now, before we get to the end, I just wanted to point out one of I think this was added. The Arrowhead Project is sort of heavily hinted. Well, no, they come out and say is responsible for what's happening. The military.
Yeah.
And so we have a few military characters sprinkled throughout this. I believe Private Jessup wasn't in the book, but he's one of the bigger characters in this. And again, I have to say, I thought it was a bit of a mistake to explain this. Just a quick reference here and there to the Arrowhead Project would have been more than enough for me. But there's a scene where they go and to King Pharmacy, not a very subtle reference. And there's an MP there who's strung up in webs, and he's like, "It was our fault. We did it." I didn't like that. I think the mystery is always more interesting than what is this? Why is this happening? To me, that's scarier than, it's a military fuck up.
Yeah, I would have preferred it to be like some scientist is delving into some like arcane scriptures that he located, and there's that weird science crossover with magic or something, like that kind of Lovecraftian like vibe, which created this apocalypse.
Right, exactly. Like exactly, something like that, or just ambiguous. Just what you're like, is there some sort of portal that was found at the thunderstorm? Like, just anything. Like, your own thoughts, I think, are more. I don't know. Would it be more satisfying than this military thing? I didn't really think that needed to be explained. Apparently, Darabont had a whole intro written for this where it explicitly shows the military and this thing happening, which he didn't even end up shooting. He cut it from the script before they even shot it. So even he himself knows ambiguous, not making that the forefront was the way to go.
That would have been disappointing if they did something like that.
Yeah, and I think, like a movie of like this 2 hours and 6 minutes, they could have cut that military stuff. Well, obviously there'd be whole characters you'd have to get rid of, but I don't know. They could have made that a little more ambiguous. Maybe it was the military. Who knows? I didn't think they needed to, explicitly explain it out for us.
Now the ending.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spoiler alert for you guys, but if you're this far into it, you've probably seen it or you don't care. But wildly different ending than what's in the short story, which
wildly different.
The short story actually lends some hope, to our characters. but the movie just goes dark and disturbing, and I completely back it. You know.
Okay. I wanted to ask because, man, I remember seeing this in the theater and this ending hitting me like, oh my God, like I just did not see this coming. And at first I felt not betrayed by it, but just like, man, they really went over the top with this ending. It's so dark, so cruel. But man, when I was watching it again recently, I was like, that's the tone of this movie.
Yeah.
Since from frame one, this is a dark fucking movie.
It's consistent for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It upset a lot of people. Stephen King himself loved the new ending, loved it. Which is cool. The story ends, the book ends with, he's writing this all down, what has happened in the last 48 hours. And it ends with, he heard on a radio the words Hartford and hope. I was born in Hartford. There's no hope there. So man, that's a dark ending for me, but yeah, it's more ambiguous, but again, that's not how you end a movie like this. You need something. And it could have been, he steps out of the car and everyone's saved by the military, but it didn't go that way either, man. It went dark, and it's very tough to watch. I've seen this a bunch of times and I still find it very hard to watch.
Yeah. I mean, it's for a film that was made for mass consumption, it's just like bleak,
Well, Frank Darabont sacrificed a lot to get this ending. For instance, they would not let him shoot this in black and white and have that ending. And apparently they offered him more money, a bigger budget, if he rewrote the ending, and he refused to do it. So he this is obviously what he wanted. This is the ending he had in mind all along. And kudos to him, whether you like it or not. They got this through in a major Hollywood, $18-20 million budget movie. You just don't see a lot of things like that.
Yeah, it's almost like a Cormac McCarthy ending or something, where it's like if Cormac McCarthy had written The Mist, it would have ended exactly like the way Darabont did it.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great comparison. And I wanted to ask you, about it. Okay, so they've left the grocery store. David, his son, two old people, and someone who's acted like a partner for him. The girl Amanda. They're all in the car. They've driven however long a full tank of gas gets you away from wherever the hell they are in Maine. They run out of gas, and they immediately come to this decision to end everyone's life. That was one thing I thought was a little they just went through so much. They wouldn't just give up like that. There's no impending doom. I mean, obviously they're in danger, but nothing's descending down upon them. He's just well, we're running out of gas. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone's dead.
Well, I think there was an implication that something was approaching them.
Okay.
But what they should have done, I mean, this is the only change I would have made, is they should have inserted some scenes of them enduring, some hardships or whatever, running out of food or something where it's we've exhausted every option and this is the only one to end suffering in this completely black outcome for everyone,
Right. Maybe show them stop at a gas station and they can't get gas, something like that. You know what I mean? But I'm everything's abandoned. I'm sure you can still put gas in your car though, or they could just show
without
a little
electricity,
bit of that.
You can't turn the pump on.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or they could have taken another car.
Sure.
There's a lot they could have done. That's always rung a little just hot, yeah, man, they just came to that decision real quick. And if you just waited 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just the ultimate ironic ending. Even a crueler twist as the credits roll. I remember I was watching this, I went to the bathroom, I came back, the credits were still rolling, and you can still hear the tanks and the helicopters and everything. It just You know, it's like they keep coming and they keep coming, and it's just such a cruel ending, man. But I mean, I give it point. Like, it's got balls, man. It goes there. That movie bummed everyone out in the theater.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's it's cool. Okay, so when did this come out? In like 2007. I'm trying to think of
2007. Yeah.
other things that were big around then, or other horror movies. I would say none of them went this dark with the ending.
No, no. I mean, at that time, I was really deep into like all those French films, you know. So
Oh, okay.
those are super bleak, you know, dark and like Martyrs and stuff like that, you know. So
Oh God, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
this was like right. I might have even watched those two films in the same year, you know, if I
Okay.
go back and think about it, you know, because there was that time when I lived in Greenpoint in Brooklyn, there was like this awesome video store called Photo Play, and that's where he had every single thing you'd ever want to watch.
Hmm.
And it was arranged like a record store, like with like these bins, so you could, you know, you flip through the bins, and that's it. You could put
Oh,
more, you
nice.
could put more movies in there. So you just had the flats. And yeah, I definitely was exploring all those French films around the time I saw this. So I was like, yeah, this is killer, you know.
Right, exactly. Okay, so people like you and I would have watched that stuff, but if you're just like the average moviegoer expecting a fun horror movie
Nah.
and you get this, man, you're gonna be fucking really pissed
Yeah.
off.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, what was big around that time were those really whack like remakes of like,
Yeah,
you know, well, the Hills Have Eyes remake was good.
that
Made-
was brutal.
Yeah, made by a Frenchman, you know, one of those French
Yeah, there you
extreme
go.
guys. But the
Yeah.
like Friday the 13th, you know, that was bad, and I think that was contemporary to this film.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Plus, I don't think anyone expected this from Frank Darabont, the guy who made the Shawshank Redemption and the Green Mile.
yeah, no, totally.
You know, like he just went ultra bleak. You know, I think the tone of his like Green Mile and Shawshank is a little bit more uplifting than this. I mean, I definitely didn't see it coming, and I go back and forth whether I like the ending. I think that this recent go around, I just saw the movie in a completely different light. Like, oh, this is not a good time, fun throwback movie with a dark ending. This is a very dark movie with a very dark ending.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind it because once again, going back to the Lovecraft sort of beats, that's how a Lovecraft story would end, with complete madness for the main character.
Yeah. Yeah. He is by the end a broken person, and you know, survival, like he survives, but at the cost of literally everything he had. And man, this is one of the 3 or 4 grimmest endings to a horror film I've ever seen. So
100%, man, totally agree with that.
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, okay, what do you give this?
I give it a 5 out of 5, man. It's like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I mentioned a few nitpicks. I give the color version of this a 4. I give the black and white version of this a 5.
Yeah,
Maybe a 4.5. I don't know, because like I said, the comedy thing is a little much, but at the end of the day, I find myself not thinking about that. I think about just everything else, just how brutal this movie is, and for that, yeah, 5.
totally. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you next week.
Take care.